This is CBC Here and Now.
Fully believe that with the Bonavista Hospital open, my dad would still be here with us today.
I guess it's a miracle that we haven't heard more of these stories with increased transport times for patients.
More people are speaking out tonight about ER closures and the life and death consequences during a health emergency.
So it's going to make a very interesting avenue to the race. It's going to have to make people be on their toes.
More than 30 teams are gearing up for Cain's Quest, the snowmobile endurance race that covers 3,000 kilometers in Labrador.
Each time we want to get some African food, we have to depend on friends that travel home or families that go home to bring back the food for us. And later on, I see that the community are getting bigger and bigger, that more people are coming in. I said, I think this is the right time for us to do something now.
The revitalization of Ropewalk Lane. Coming up a little later in the show, a tour of the diverse food and retail hub. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. There's reaction tonight to the story of Charles Marsh, a Bonavista man who died while the emergency room in his community was closed. His daughter says if the emergency room had been open, her father would still be alive today. Now the area's MHA is responding to the incident, which he says was not unexpected. Here and Now's Daryl Roberts reports.
It's something Bonavista residents have been fearing for a while. Someone dying while the Bonavista ER was closed. And it's exactly what Shelley Gosselin says happened to her father, Charles Marsh.
I really do believe that his death was needless, that he would still be here with us because he would have gotten the oxygen and the medication that he needed to open up his airways fully and to be able to function again. I fully believe that with the Bonavista Hospital open, my dad would still be here with us today.
Gosselin says Marsh died in an ambulance on the way to Clarenville, the closest emergency room, 90 minutes away.
Well, it was disturbing, really, to hear the story.
Bonavista MHA Craig Party says he was saddened to hear about Marsh's death, but says he's not surprised.
It wasn't something that we weren't expecting, because I think most people here would know that if someone were in dire need of emergency attendance, if they did, and only to go to the local hospital and find the doors locked, one would know that sometimes an hour and a half is not going to, to be suitable for that particular patient.
Eastern Health won't comment on Marsh's death, but in a statement, the health authority says it has found staff for at least 19 days in March and is continuing efforts to secure additional coverage for the remainder of the month. Party says the scheduled coverage is positive, but he wants the provincial government to offer more money to convince doctors to move to places like Bonavista.
There are things that government can do to make it on a level playing field, not only to make it more attractive by incremental amount, but in order to give us parity with those in other regions.
Bonavista isn't the only community where the emergency room keeps closing, and last year, the province recorded a 5-year high in emergency department deaths.
I guess it's a miracle that we haven't heard more of these stories with increased transport times for patients.
Michael Tiller is the mayor of New West Valley, where the emergency room has closed off and on over the past year. He's also a paramedic.
Anytime that you have an extended transport with a person who is sick or ill or is having a medical emergency, any delay in treatment of that patient would most likely have a negative impact.
Meanwhile, Shelley Gosselin plans to keep speaking out about her father's death, and she hopes the emergency room closures in Bonavista will soon end for good. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Meanwhile, in a statement, the Provincial Health Department is offering its condolences to Marsh's family, but says it can't comment on an individual patient's case. The statement says the department, in partnership with the regional health authorities, remains focused on recruitment initiatives for both urban and rural locations across Newfoundland and Labrador, and it's reminding residents that during times when the emergency department is closed, patients with a medical emergency who require an ambulance should call 911. Still with health, 7 more people in the province have died from COVID-19. 4 of those deaths occurred between February 12th and 25th, while the other 3 are from previous weeks. 14 people were hospitalized during that latest 2-week period. 3 required critical care. Since the last update, there have been 4 deaths reported in the Eastern Health region, 2 in Central Health and 1 in Labrador Grenfell Health.
Well, an Arctic ridge of high pressure is starting to lose its grip. Slowly anyway. We saw our temperatures climbing a little bit this afternoon, but it is allowing this area of low pressure to get pretty close to the coast of Labrador. So we have a couple of, or at least one warning in place for Cartwright, wind warning for us for tonight, and then it will continue through the day tomorrow. But we still have lots of cold air in place at the moment. However, temperatures climbed this afternoon. -8 was a daytime high in St. John's, -10 in Gander, and -6 in Corner Brook. Temperatures across Labrador, even in Lab City, at -8 this afternoon. That means we broke the streak of -10 finally after 139 hours. That does still put us in 3rd place in St. John's, but we did see a 5-day streak. Same thing for Gander. You saw a 5-day streak below -10. And it looks like the temperatures are just going to continue to climb as we head into the weekend. I'll talk all about it coming up.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Well, a cashier was held up at knife point in Grand Falls, Windsor overnight. The RCMP says 2 men held up a Circle K convenience store just before 2:30 a.m. They were wearing masks and carrying a weapon. Police say one of the men threatened the worker with the knife while the other men watched the front door. They stole beer and money. The RCMP says the cashier wasn't injured and the investigation is ongoing. Well, now to the Burin Peninsula. After a failed sales process late last year, there's renewed hope for the insolvent Fluorspar mine in St. Lawrence. A successful bidder, one that wants to restart the mine, has been selected, and now talks are underway to finalize a deal. But the news is not quite as positive for those who are owed money by the mine. Here Now's Terry Roberts has the latest on this year-long saga.
This is what it's all about. Fluorspar. It's labeled a critical mineral, so it's in demand. But it hasn't been pulled from the earth here in St. Lawrence for more than a year, ever since Canada Fluorspar ran out of cash and more than 200 people lost their jobs. Hopes were dashed last fall after a potential sale collapsed. But the process was restarted, and now there's cautious optimism once again. An unidentified bidder has been selected, and the courts have agreed to extend bankruptcy protection until the end of May, in hopes a formal deal can be reached.
We do have a letter of intent that allows for exclusive negotiations, and the intent of this bidder is to have an operational mine. So I know it's not coming fast enough for the people of the area, for the people that work there, but it's better than the alternative.
It's a sign of hope for the job market on the Burin Peninsula. Former mine employees have scattered all over in search of work. This is Shane Slaney, a year ago, uncertain about the future after losing his job. He's now working rotationally at a gold mine in Ontario. Will he flock back to Fluorspar?
You know, with the uncertainty with that mine down in St. Lawrence, with everything that went on for the 5 years we've been out there, everything was up and down all the time.
So you'd have to think long and hard, would you, before you return to the Fluorspar mine?
I would have to think about it.
The news is not quite so promising for the mine's creditors. If the sale proceeds, unsecured creditors, many small businesses on the Burin Peninsula won't get a cent. Provincial taxpayers will also lose. A $17 million government loan is outstanding. The province also invested about $3 million to help fund the sales process. This document says secured creditors will suffer substantial losses. But the energy minister says there could be an upside.
Hopefully we recoup some, but I think having a number of people working in an operational mine is a pretty good situation to be in.
The town council is also dealing with the loss of nearly $500,000 in grants from the mine. So far, no tax increases for residents, but plenty of belt-tightening. And fingers crossed that Fluorspar will soon flourish once again.
More than anything, getting our families back together again, not having people have to go away to work and spend two or 3 weeks away from their family out of every 4 or 5.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a group of mine workers in Labrador City will soon vote on a new contract. The United Steelworkers Union has announced a tentative agreement with the Iron Ore Company of Canada. The union is now planning for ratification meetings. Workers will then vote to accept or reject what's being offered. It won't talk about what the negotiating team has agreed to until after that vote. The company has about 2,400 workers in Labrador City and Sept-Îles, Quebec. The union went on strike for 9 weeks in 2018 before reaching the last collective agreement. Well, on the day court hearings began over the Bay du Nord development, some people took to the streets of Ottawa today to once again voice their displeasure with the proposed project.
Out of oil and gas, make a change and make it fast.
A handful of people with the group Eco Justice demonstrated in front of the Norwegian embassy. The organization is upset over the federal approval of the project, and it's also leading the court challenge. The developer for the Bay du Nord project is the oil company Equinor, which is headquartered in Norway. Well, Metrobus is looking to roll in a new, more eco-friendly direction, swapping out fossil fuel-burning buses for electric. Yesterday, more than $4 million of provincial and federal funding was announced to go towards making St. John's buildings more energy efficient. Here Now's Mark Quinn has more on the plan for buses.
It will likely be many years before Metrobus's fleet of 55 fuel-burning buses are gone. But today, an initial step was taken towards replacing them with electric.
The government is investing $160,000 to plan for the electrification of St. John's bus fleets.
A total of $200,000 of federal and municipal money is going to a non-profit organization called QTRIC, a group that develops zero-carbon transportation solutions here in Canada. By June, QTRIC is expected to give Metrobus a feasibility plan for purchasing and operating an electric fleet.
This will include a comprehensive strategy that will help determine the costs of implementing zero-emission buses, as well as the risks, advantages, and infrastructure requirements to do this effectively and efficiently.
At about $1.2 million each, electric buses cost about $500,000 more than the ones we're currently using. And Metrobus's general manager says it's not a move that can happen overnight.
Moving to a zero-emission fleet is both very complicated and expensive. So this funding will play a huge role in getting us the plan to move forward.
About half of all carbon emissions on the Northeast Avalon come from all forms of transportation. The federal government, the city, and Metrobus hope that eventually fleet electrification can help change that. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, if you live on Fogo Island and can't afford the cost of a one-night stay at the local luxury inn, well, there's good news tonight. You can stay there for free. The inn is offering all local residents a complimentary night stay. It's in recognition of its 10th anniversary, and it's a repeat of an offer that was extended to residents when the hotel first opened. 2 adults from each permanent household on Fogo Island and Change Islands are eligible for the free night. The inn's website shows the cheapest room is normally $2,875 per night. Well, it's almost time for the big snowmobile race in the Big Land. Cain's Quest gets underway this Saturday, and all 31 teams are now in Labrador West getting ready. This morning, the draw for the start line position took place. Here Now's Daryl Din was there.
Today we're at the racers meeting, which is a mandatory meeting that we make all racers attend. First off, we'll be doing our start line draw positions. That would be the positions then that the racers will line up for on at the start line. And after that, then we go over to race route, the rules, some questions, quick queries, anything like that.
The first line position went to Team Johnny from Quebec. What's the best position for the race?
Later, I guess. Yeah.
It's a bit more broken trails and stuff to get you through.
Yeah. Yeah, seems like it, yeah.
I'm going to have to go with mid-pack would be the best in my opinion, but I think every race team would have their own interest on that. Some would like to be in the lead and having that front run and stuff, and others like to be following the pack. So I think it all depends on what the strategy of the race team is at the time. But for me personally, it would be mid-pack. That way then I got somebody to follow and I know someone's behind me.
Earlier this year, there were concerns about sea ice conditions. That seems to be good for now, but there is worry about snow conditions. This veteran racer has checked out part of the trail.
Yeah, I did. In the South Coast, it's pretty bad. Not bad.
And what are some of the tips, I guess, or what are things you'll have to do to make sure you get through there okay?
What do you call it? Speed, I guess, and cold.
The reports that we've been getting is not really favorable conditions snow-wise. Ice-wise, we're good with stuff, but the lakes are really hard, drifty, packed, and the other places that we've had really rugged terrain, or some of our checkpoint places have told us it's the worst they've ever seen it. So it's going to make a very interesting avenue to the race. It's going to have to make people be on their toes.
Coming up on Friday is Fan Night, where residents in Labrador West can meet the racers and see the snowmobiles in person.
They can come in and have a chat with the racers, see their sleds, put their hands on it, have a talk to them, and see what it takes to be and race in Cain's Quest.
And hopefully inspire some for the next races down the road.
Yes, hopefully inspire some little Cain's Quest racers and get some more engagement for 2025.
To view live tracking of the race starting on Saturday, you can go to their website, cainsquest.com. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
Well, stay tuned for more Cain's Quest coverage this week on Here and Now. Reporter Jeremy Eaton will be live from Labrador West tomorrow to bring you all the latest from the grueling snowmobile race. Diverse fashion, food, and crafts. It was all on display at the 50th annual Corner Brook Winter Carnival. We'll take you there coming up after Ashley's weather.
Look at this. It's 6:15 and it's still a little bit light out. In 11 days, our sunsets will be after 7 o'clock. I'll get into all the forecast details coming up.
There is opportunities, but the concerns are equally important to talk through and think through.
The first phase of roughly 1,000 megawatts, the range of around 200 turbines.
Another wind to ammonia mega project being proposed. This one would be in central Newfoundland. On tomorrow's show, we'll hear about the $6 billion proposal that could transform the Botwood area.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. VIP prize deadline is midnight March 10th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Tell me, how did you come to Neverland?
Well, does that look familiar? It's actually Newfoundland doubling as Neverland in Disney's upcoming Peter Pan and Wendy movie. The Bonavista Cape shoreline serves as the backdrop for many scenes in that film.
Yeah, the town of Bonavista is feeling proud, sharing the trailer on social media this morning and giving a shout out to Bonavista's own Allison White, who's a producer on the film.
That looks like it's going to be great.
I can't wait to see it.
And fun to see what the places that you recognize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And before we get to the weather, actually, a little correction that we want to mention: the Cain's Quest fan event is actually tomorrow night in Labrador West, and as I said earlier, Jeremy Eaton will be there live. So I just wanted to clarify that's happening tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Things are warming up too, which is nice.
Oh, that's good.
This extreme cold. We're done with it for now.
Yep, and done with February.
We are. March 1st, meteorological spring starts today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did we do in February in terms of snow? It felt like we had a lot of snow.
And you would be absolutely right. In fact, almost all of the island saw more than normal. Let's just take a look at some of the numbers there. Here in St. John's, 71 centimeters is what we typically see through February. We picked up 122.6 centimeters of snow. Gander, Stephenville, Corner Brook, Deer Lake, all above normal. And then quite the opposite, in fact, for Labrador, which I guess is not great news for Cain's Quest, but Lanzaloo typically picks up about 75 centimeters of snow. He picked up 60 this month. Last month, I should say, and Goose Bay, typically 63 centimeters of snow. You only picked up 25.8. So we do have lots of snow to make up. We'll see what happens in March. But as far as those temperatures are concerned out there, one thing that was common right across the province was that temperatures were well below normal for February. That is no surprise after the last week or so as far as those temperatures are concerned. St. John's, minus 6.6. is where we sat average for February, and we typically sit around minus 4.9. So again, that is the story pretty much across the board. Very cold, in fact, for Goose Bay, Nain, and Wabush, where you saw your temperatures averaging in the minus 20s for the most part. So now that we're said and done with that, it doesn't mean that we're done with the cold as we turn the page, I should say, into March. But we are talking about much warmer conditions today. Minus 8 right now is what it's sitting at in St. John's. Still feeling that wind chill out there though, minus 17. And then temperatures up across Labrador. Lab City, you are sitting at minus 8 at the moment, but your wind chill is still around minus 15. And then as you head towards the coast, Makovic, cold spot at the moment at minus 19, and your wind chill is at minus 28. So taking a look at what's going to happen tonight, that area of low pressure offshore, as I was talking about, it's going to get really close to the coast, and that's going to mean that the winds are going to pick up. So Cartwright, you are under a wind warning. You're looking at your winds gusting overnight tonight between 60 and 80 kilometers per hour. But as we head through tomorrow, those winds will be gusting upwards of 100 kilometers per hour. That is the only place that we'll see winds that strong. However, it will be gusty tonight for really all along the northeast coast, where we're seeing those gusts between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, hence that wind chill. But overall temperatures tonight should be into the minus teens, minus 20s, still the story for Labrador. However, the extreme cold warning is done for now. As far as our wind chills are concerned, though, like I said, overnight, you're still looking at your wind chills into the -30s up across the Big Land and dipping as well across the island into about feeling more like -26 in Gander, -22 in St. John's. And again, that's going to have a lot to do with the fact that the winds are still brisk. There's that area of low pressure that's going to bring that potential for snowfall along coastal areas of Labrador. Otherwise, we're sitting under a ridge of high pressure still, and that's keeping things fairly calm. And we'll continue to do so as we head through at least tonight. We may see some clouds along the west coast along with a few flurries, but overall another quiet evening expected. But we will see that cloud edging closer and closer as we head through tomorrow, especially along the northeast coast. And again, that's what's going to ramp these winds up too as we head through the day. So still looking at those winds gusting between even 60 and 70 kilometers per hour in those areas along the northeast coast and up across Labrador. Like I said, in the Cartwright area, you could be seeing those gusts near 100 kilometers per hour. Other than that area of low pressure that's going to affect the maritime provinces will skirt south of us, it looks like, for Friday, because that ridge of high pressure is going to keep us in the clear. As far as snowfall amounts go, nothing significant. You may pick up a couple of centimeters on the coast, but other than that, not a whole lot to talk about. Same thing for the west coast and Lab West. As far as temperatures are concerned tomorrow, it's going to feel much nicer, -5. But again, with those winds, the wind chill values will make it feel much colder than that, especially in St. John's. Varying degrees of cloud cover. Again, flurries the story on the west coast and up across Labrador coastal areas, still into the -single digits, -10 to -12 for the rest of the Big Land. Now, as we look ahead, temperatures are going to continue to warm up, and we'll get into that coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the Corner Brook Winter Carnival is steeped in 50 years of tradition, but this year's festival also aimed to embrace some of the community's new neighbors. During the 10-day stretch, the carnival hosted a fair dedicated to multicultural food, fashion, and crafts. Have a look.
I wasn't expecting this many people. I'm happy because the makeup was worth it.
Jennifer Elms, she is the organizer for the Corner Brook Winter Carnival. She came one time at our office to know if it is possible to include the newcomers, be part of the Winter Carnival. So, and we have amazing newcomer, talented people over here in Corner Brook. So we thought of yes, we'll do a food and craft fair and also a stage performance.
We're doing this today, of course, to keep everybody in the spirit of Corner Brook Winter Carnival and just have that real strong family atmosphere.
Yes, actually when we came in, we thought there was not going to be a lot of people because we came in 1:30 and it was a few vendors, not so much people. We were I think people is not going to show up today because it was a little bit stormy outside. And at the end, suddenly all the wave of people came in and we sold out within the first hour. It was really good.
I came here when it was COVID. And that time of period, I find all those people are very isolated, and we were also isolated. So it's really hard for us to communicate and make friends. I'm really happy to meet new cultures here, and I'm introducing my culture to others, and it's really good.
My name is Melissa, and I work at Samo's, Simichis, and Filipino Barbecue. What we tend to do is basically Napoleons and cream horns, and we have Filipino pastries as well, like leche flan, and we have ubi cake, ubi makapuno cake, Filipino barbecue skewers, and we're very well known for our sandwiches as well, brisket and pulled pork and Philly cheesesteak.
Well, the outfit right now is not traditional because, it's very expensive to ship items and stuff. And if people don't know, there's no fabric stores in Corner Brook. So we had to improvise a little bit. We thrifted this. This is a bodysuit. And these are actually sheets, bed sheets. We made this with one of my friends. Her name is Gina. Some of you might know her. She works at Luigi's. I'm really happy how it turned out. I'm quite happy with the performances I presented, the numbers, and I would love to do it again.
They come in for Fanta, they come in for La Casera, even we have the plantain chips.
An old St. John's neighborhood with a new reputation. We're shining our Here and Now spotlight on Ropewalk Lane. That's next. businesses are moving back to Ropewalk Lane in St. John's. After a period of decline, the area is seeing a surge in people from different backgrounds, bringing their cultures and their businesses with them. CBC's Aoife Alaba brings us this feature on the changing neighborhood.
It's a funny little name, Ropewalk Lane, a neighborhood at the heart of St. John's, just outside of downtown and just at the edge of the suburbs. Here's how it started. This was the home of the Colonial Cordage Company. They made rope and twine for the fishing industry. The quarter-mile piece of the building is where all the rope was laid out. It was quite the walk. Today there's no rope, but there's something that ties the neighborhood together. It's food, and that food is from just about everywhere. Here at Wandebo African Store, they sell anything you need to make, well, everything.
Most people love, Fanta. Like they come in for Fanta, they come in for La Casera. Even we have the plantain chips that is vegan for vegetarians. Flour like fufu, which is gluten-free. A lot of people love something that is gluten-free. And they just want to try something new.
We were just here at Wandebo African Store. In the same neighborhood, directly across the street, there's Metropical's African, Caribbean, and Asian grocery store. Inside, they have groceries as well as touches of African culture.
Each time we want to get some African food, we have to depend on friends that travel home or families that go home, they bring back the food for us. And we think that that is not enough for us, and we have a little community at that time. And later on, I see that the community are getting bigger and bigger, that more people are coming in. I said, I think this is the right time for us to do something now.
Ropewalk Lane is now a retail hub for this part of the city. Restaurants, groceries, hockey pucks, and even haircuts. Maurice Leahy has watched the neighborhood change over the decades.
We've been in this location since '89. Before that, we were 21 years around the corner on Pennywell Road.
For years, the neighborhood didn't have the best reputation, but that's changing.
It's grown substantially over the last 10 years or so. Before that, we had, there was a lot of dilapidated buildings, older buildings. And it was the end of the city where there was a lot of construction and so on. But the last 10, 15 years, we had a lot of business coming into the area.
Businesses changing the face of Ropewalk Lane are happy to be the center of change for locals and newcomers alike. Do you find that a lot of people who were born and raised in Newfoundland come here as well?
Sure, they come here to pick up some stuff because now our fufu is really popular. Everybody are coming, do you have fufu? Do you have fufu jollof rice? And I show them the recipe and they pick up a few things to go and cook it. This is a very good community for me, and the location, I'm really happy about it.
This community has gone from being all about the rope to a melting pot. All this talk about food has made me hungry.
Well, 30 years ago, Grace Okwira came to St. John's from Uganda and started her life from scratch. Today, she's a leader in the community, teaching English to newcomers, and she's being recognized as a CBC Black Changemaker for Newfoundland and Labrador. Here's more about her life story and the impact she's making on the local community.
Hope you are having trouble with this one.
The learners should feel comfortable. The learning should be fun. Hi, my name is Grace Okwira. I am from Uganda in East Africa, and I am a Black Changemaker. I think actually respect to me is a very big factor in learning. I would say that learning respect, I'd really attribute that to my parents and grandparents. My dad was a very soft-spoken and very humble and kind man. And when we were growing up, he never really raised his voice. Like he would kind of, anything that we would do in his teaching, in anything he wants to kind of share with us, or any learning that he was giving us, he would kind of just give with no sense of fear at all. to me, it made me feel that learning doesn't have to have an element of fear in it. There's a lot of laughter in the class, and because we want to kind of almost the feeling of being a family, being brothers and sisters.
And for more stories from the CBC Black Changemaker series, you can check out our website, cbc.ca/Black Changemakers.
You had a graduating high school class of 3 people. You get to Wabush, it's like, oh my God, they got Grenfell Corner Store and Wabush Convenience.
Well, tonight on Still Standing, Johnny Harris heads to Wabush. We'll bring you a sneak peek of tonight's episode just ahead.
There's a strong pull to come home in this province. Dorothy Pleasance always made the trip. Watch for this archival special, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
The rock upon which Wabush was built is iron ore. This started out as little scraggly work camp town, but decades of lifting iron, well, that's how a town gets built.
Well, tonight on CBC's Still Standing, the town of Wabush is front and center. Host Johnny Harris explores how the area is a hotspot for high-grade iron ore mining. But despite all its riches, Wabush experiences a dramatic bust every 5 years or so. Here's just a taste of what viewers can expect.
Like a 5-year period, the price of ore drives up. A lot of people come here and the markets are through the roof, and then the markets will go down, and then everything's busting, and there's going to be layoffs. In the 80s, when the price of the markets dropped so much, people literally boarded up their windows and their doors, and then just went into the bank and handed the keys back to the bank and pretty much defaulted on their mortgages and everything like that, and then just left town.
It sounds a bit like the opposite of a bank robbery. Hey, who's got the keys to the vault? Who got the keys to the vault? You? Yeah? Okay, here, can you put those in there for safekeeping? That's my house keys. Yeah. What? Why am I wearing a ski mask? Because it's -40 out. Everybody got a ski. Wabush, Labrador is home, or at least home base, to one of the most grueling snowmobile endurance races in the world, Cain's Quest. Why you would ever want to partake in this event was just one of the many Cain's questions I put to two-time winner Andrew Milley.
The race starts on a Friday or a Saturday. You're looking to finish somewhere between Wednesday and Friday the next week. Some days you could be on the snowmobile for 24+ hours.
It's a tough one. Just finishing this is an accomplishment. Andrew's raced 5 times.
Started in 2009 with my father. 2009 we had a really good run for the first 2/3 of the race, and we ended up finishing 11th.
In 2016, came back and won, and in 2018, he won again. When it comes to Cain, this guy is able.
Well, that's just a couple of the local faces featured in tonight's episode of Still Standing from Wabush. That episode airs 8:30 p.m. Island time on CBC TV a half hour earlier in most parts of Labrador. And you can also catch it anytime for free on the CBC Gem streaming service. At the end of this month, the Mass Casualty Commission in Nova Scotia is set to release its final report. It will mark the end of the public inquiry examining the 2020 rampage by Gabriel Wortman. 22 people were killed in that attack, and a key witness was Wortman's common-law spouse, Lisa Banfield. She survived and faced charges in connection with the killings. Now, Banfield's lawyers are hoping the report includes lessons from her experience with police. The CBC's Angela McIver reports.
I think deception is probably the best word to describe, in simple terms, how I think she was treated.
For the last 3 years, Jessica Zita has been in regular contact with her client, Lisa Banfield, and her 2 sisters. They've spent hours together processing what happened in Portapic on April 18th and 19th of 2020. Trying to understand why Banfield's longtime partner killed 22 people. In those first few months, Banfield told police officers about the 2 decades of physical and psychological abuse Gabriel Wortman inflicted on her. Zita says through it all, Banfield trusted the RCMP.
They took great care to make sure that she felt comfortable. But obviously it's, now we know in hindsight, those intentions might not have been so pure.
Banfield and her lawyers now say the RCMP manipulated her to gather information so they could lay criminal charges. They allege officers didn't make it clear Banfield was under investigation or that she could consult her lawyer. An officer named Staff Sergeant Greg Vardy interviewed Lisa Banfield 3 times on April 20th, April 28th, and July 28th of 2020. During the April 28th interview, Vardy questioned Banfield about how Wortman got guns and ammunition across the U.S. border. He started to give her rights, also known as a caution, and at one point, Banfield asked him if she needed a lawyer. Vardy said no, but explained if she had helped Wortman, she could be charged. She didn't say anything incriminating during that interview, but on July 28th, Banfield did admit to asking her brother and brother-in-law to pick up ammunition for Wortman. The RCMP's position is that she was properly cautioned during that interview, and she was told she could leave at any time. But Banfield's lawyers argue she didn't understand that her criminal jeopardy had changed. That is, her status had changed from a witness and victim, helping inform the investigation, to being under investigation herself.
She would not have left that interview knowing that she was under criminal investigation. And that's what a caution is supposed to tell someone who is under investigation.
She was charged 4 months later. Her case was eventually withdrawn after she completed restorative justice. This retired RCMP member agrees the force could have done a better job informing Banfield.
It wasn't you are a suspect or you are under investigation. It was less wordy and less, I guess, conclusive than that. So the argument would be that she didn't understand it because it wasn't given to the complete full way that the court would expect it for a traumatized person.
He says what happened to Banfield should be a case study for the RCMP and police forces across Canada. Zita expects at the very least the way police treat victims of domestic violence will be addressed by the Mass Casualty Commission.
There are a lot of tough issues that came up in the inquiry, and I hope that the commission deals with them directly. I know that it will.
The final report and its recommendations will be released on March 30th. Angela McIver, CBC News, Halifax.
While I was doing my radiation, my photography actually was my coping mechanism.
The crow was flying by Signal Hill and he had an egg in his mouth.
There's a bit of tension there sometimes, but I'm becoming very good at diffusing that.
I find black and white, it draws your attention into what's happening and you can kind of capture the emotions a little bit more.
You know, there are lots of things going on, chances for you to capture moments that people love to see.
The changing face of women's hockey can be seen on and off the ice this week at the Canada Winter Games. There's growing diversity and more women in leadership positions. The CBC's Nancy Russell has more from Prince Edward Island.
Here in Summerside, this is the moment that E.E. Peng has been hoping for since her family moved to Prince Edward Island 6 years ago. She had seen people playing hockey when she was living in Beijing, and she knew she had to be part of it when she moved to PEI.
I started playing hockey whenever I first moved to Canada. Like, whenever I moved here, that's what everyone talked about, so I thought I'd give it a try. I always wanted to be a goalie when I was little. I'd go and watch a hockey game, and I thought the goalie equipment looked really cool, and I wanted to give it a try.
E.E. Peng is part of a shift in Canadian hockey as the sport begins to reflect the demographics of Canada in 2023. There is change happening here on the bench as well. Team PEI has an all-female coaching and support staff at these Canada Games.
I hope that they get a good sense of where they can go. We've all had different playing experiences, and we hope that they can take a little bit from our experience and help create some dreams.
Shakita Jensen is also hoping to be a role model here on the bench for the Northwest Territories. She's part of the Aboriginal Apprentice Coach Program, bringing Indigenous coaches to the Games to help them get experience at the national level.
Yeah, representation is super important just for other coaches, athletes. So I think having Indigenous athletes, coaches, staff is super important. And yeah, just making sure we have a seat.
Jensen says it's important for the players to have role models and big dreams.
Would you like to coach with the Team Canada someday? Definitely, that would be awesome. But yeah, I feel like I have a long way to go, but definitely open for anything. The hopes are high.
E.E. Peng hopes she too can be a role model.
I love to show young athletes, if you put your mind, you could achieve whatever you put your mind towards. And I'm really excited to play and to represent a province, and I want to show them just that.
Nancy Russell, CBC News, Summerside.
Well, time for a look at the long range, so we get to look ahead to the weekend. But Ashley, this might be like a little bit of a break for you this week because we've been having all of these storms after storm, but this week has been pretty quiet.
Yep, and we can thank a ridge of high pressure for that, which is also what brought all that cold air. So we're gonna swap the cold air for some weather. Let's just say that. Let's take a look what's going to happen as we head through Thursday evening into Friday. Now, note those two areas of low pressure, one offshore, one moving across the maritime provinces. That is going to bring snow for them. But this ridge of high pressure still in place, and that means that the area of low pressure is actually going to skirt south of us, keeping us in the clear. Now, southern areas of the island, particularly the Avalon and the Burin Peninsula, you may see a few flurries from this, but it shouldn't accumulate too much. In fact, we should actually just see some cloud cover from this one. And then eventually that area of low pressure offshore will pull away again. And that will be the story, and then it'll move right back in. So it's kind of doing a little wishy-washy on the west coast or on the eastern coast of the island and Labrador through the day on Friday. As far as temperatures are concerned, we're going to stay below zero between -3 to -7. And then same thing up across Labrador, especially towards the coast. Now, northern and western Labrador, you'll stay below -10 to -15 through the day on Friday. Now, as we look ahead to Friday evening and into Saturday, The area of low pressure is going to move right back in, and then we're also going to see another one that's going to move in, and this one may bring some snow on Saturday. I don't think it'll be too much, but we're still going to see certainly some snow from this, but it won't be until later on the evening hours on Saturday. There is some disagreement still with this one, so we do have another day or two to figure it out, but at this point that's what it's looking like. However, through the day on Saturday we should see some sunshine, and our temperatures will stay pretty much where they are going to be there on Friday, so between -4 and -6 through the day. But again, we will likely see some snow move in later on in the evening hours. As far as Nain is concerned, you're going to go up to -8, and then Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Lab City, you'll sit around at -12, which I guess would be great weather to start Cain's quest out at this point. And I know that southeastern portions of Labrador well below as far as snowfall is concerned, so hopefully we'll see a little bit of that to help. Now, as far as the long-range forecast goes, there you go, +1 at the end of the forecast. We haven't seen that in a while. Both Sunday and Monday, it looks like at this point. We could see the temperatures rise a little bit more than that, but for now, flurries on Sunday, the potential for a few showers actually to mix in. That's something I haven't said in a while either, to mix in on Monday as well. We're looking at the similar forecast as far as central and western Newfoundland are concerned on Monday, where that potential for showers will move in, and your temperatures will hover between 1 or 2 degrees through the day. And as far as Labrador is concerned, look at that warm up, -3 on Sunday, 2 degrees on Monday. And again, also looking at the potential for some showers there depending on the track. And then for Western Labrador, this will all be flurries, but your temperatures into the -single digits, overnight lows -double digits. Just before we leave you tonight, another Northern Lights photo.
Wow.
Definitely going to share this with you. Sharon, share this one. If you have any weather photos, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that is gorgeous. Was that the moon? It was covered by the banner, but
yeah.
Gee.
The Northern Lights have been absolutely incredible. All of my friends still from Yellowknife, it's all over my feed.
I bet. I've never seen them in person one of these days.
Gotta go to Labrador.
Hopefully, yeah. That's it for us. Have a great night.
Good night.